right, I'm showing Stefan General Motors plant and the area where I worked on the trench. So anyway, when I worked here, of course all the employees, they park over here, and they've got big furnaces for aluminum in there. And you're not allowed to have a can of soda or anything, because if cold aluminum touches the hot aluminum, it causes an eruption.
Oh, okay.
And so that's one thing that's interesting about this facility, because if you packed your lunch, you ought to make sure you have plastic bottles and
I see.
nothing of...
Must have been very hot.
It is. In some areas of the plant, the people that... there's people that make they process the aluminum and get it ready to be molded. And where I worked in they called it Die Cast South. And they had die machines, they have robots, and it would stamp the car piece, and then my job is to come down a conveyor belt and I trim the car part and then put it in a container to be shipped. So it was pretty typical type of factory job, and some of the jobs were easier too, because some of the guys' jobs was to just go in quality control and check the pieces. But see, look, they got the explosion hazard sign that says no aluminum cans right there as you go in there. But that's one of the gates you go in. But the whole facility goes all around this entire block to right here.
Here's somebody living directly.
Very interesting cemetery up here. There used to be a Civil War prisoner camp in the U.S. Civil War. And there's not a whole lot of Civil War stuff about Bedford. But up in here, I won't make you walk out to it, but there's a marker for the Confederate prisoners that were here.
Okay.
So they've got like a marker that just says unknown Confederate dead on it. And it's Breckenridge Cemetery, but I guess this area of Bedford, it was called Breckenridge at the time, and that's where they kept prisoners of the Civil War back in the 1860s.
And Indiana was on the side of the Union.
Yes. Yep, we were on the Union side, and there's a famous story called Morgan's Raid, where a Confederate general took his cavalry and robbed a bunch of areas down at the lowest part of the state, and he made it up through the state, and then he made it to Ohio and was captured by the Union soldiers and killed. So that's one of about the only major Civil War story Indiana has.
Okay.
The rest of it would be in other states. Corden, Indiana is where the Morgan's Raid happened. So they call it the Battle of Corden, and but yeah, that's where the Morgan's Raid happened. Growing up, Dad, he liked Civil War history, and so did my grandfather, and so I got a lot of books from them and read up on it and stuff through them, and just that's a big thing. I mean, this is just a pastime when you're not. Some people are very engaged in sports and stuff. I've never really, unless I'm playing the sport, I've never had an interest in it. So
You don't like to just watch?
Yeah, I mean, I would only be interested if I knew a team member or something, but I've never understood the worship of sports celebrities. I don't get it, but it's just it's just another hobby that I don't partake in it, but a lot of Americans do.
Yeah.
Let's see how clear Oolitic looks, maybe. One of Oolytic's only landmarks, and I think it's pretty funny. It's a superhero stone carving from a 1930s comic book.
What?
Yep. It's the famous Joe Palooka.
Who is Joe Palooka?
His character was before Superman.
Yeah.
And he was like a bare knuckle boxer, and they had comic books about Joe Palooka the boxer.
Okay.
And in 1948, they had a limestone anniversary about the town.
Yeah.
And they made the Joe Palooka statue, and they just used him as he was popular at the time, but that was before my time, so we always thought it was just something weird. But he's kind of like...
That's funny.
They used to be on the square in Bedford, and they moved him up here to Oolitic, because just so Oolitic could have a marker, I believe. But yep, that's the Joe Palooka statue. And there's information about that I'll be able to give you online, but it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, it takes the transmission out of the different modes, and you can select 4 or 2-wheel, and,
I see.
and you lock it in on the front there. Got Stefan checking out Joe Palooka.